Hi, I am Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi everyone. Today we are talking about pause. A pause is a temporary stop in action or speech. The power of the pause may be the best strategy to have more thoughtful and impactful interactions. It's often counterintuitive or can even be uncomfortable, yet an essential leadership communication skill. So it was so wonderful to talk to Helen about pause. And she talked about it in a little bit of a different way than I'm going to talk about it today. I will say what she spoke about just spoke to me at so many different levels. And I really do focus on pausing in my life. Different ways that I personally pause can look like in the morning. I have my ritual of a walk every morning, and I've been so grateful lately. A couple days a week, based on my parenting plan, I'm able to go out when the sun's rising. And I have this place that I pause and I talk about what I'm grateful for. But the sun has just been coming up and it is so beautiful at that time of morning. And you get to see so many different things in nature that usually they're already gone and doing their own thing by the time I'm out, even an hour later. So that is my favorite time to pause. Another time that I really focus on pausing is that time with my daughter. And Helen had spoke to that as well, is that intentional, focused pausing moments when it comes to spending time with her and just giving her all of my attention. It's so important, and we should really strive to do that with everyone we're with, but sometimes we pick one person or we see that we do it more with one person. So I'm going to go back to some of my roots here, and I'm going to share with you one of my favorite articles that I use when I talk about sales. And it says the power of pause. And so they really line out in this article through Sales Gravy about the power of pause. And so what they talk about is that when you pause, it's about really just before you speak. It compels your perspective to listen, open up, respond, and engage. Pausing is one of the best kept secrets to influencing buyer behavior. And I've got to say, I can agree with this. I think that the power of the pause can happen in so many different ways. And I don't want to discredit other ways of this, but in sales, it's something that I know I have focused on in my sales. So they say that when used wisely and strategically, the pause, that moment the silence really creates, helps you influence buyer behavior. In sales, what you don't say can often be more impactful than what you do say. So they bring about 7 key places in the sales process that you should focus on pausing. The first one, which is one of my favorites, and I use this in everything, obviously not just sales, but the idea is after using their name. So data states that once anyone hears you use their name, they listen closely to the next 15 to 20 words. And you think about when I go back to Ferris Bueller, like in school, and he's like, Bueller, right? But people listen after their name is spoken. And teachers use it strategically to gain attention. People will use it. I will use it when I'm presenting to a team that I know. And if I feel like I'm losing somebody, I'll use their name. And often they'll be like, yeah, can you repeat that, Allie? because I knew that they were drifting and I wanted to bring them back in. So it is known that when you use their name, people they gravitate to their name being used. They like their name being used. It's a very strategic way to communicate in any type of service interaction with people. The other one, and I just laugh about this, it always makes me laugh. So after you ask a question, you should pause. But I cannot even share with you how many times I have actually listened to sales calls, because I listened to a lot of sales calls in my past when it's come to vacation rentals, and people will ask the question and then we'll talk right over it. I'm like, no, stop, listen, pause. But it gives your person space to respond. But you've got to discipline yourself to be quiet because you want to fill that space so badly. I've done it before. I've caught myself. I'm like, oh, I totally filled that space when I was asking a strategic question of somebody. And so it really gives you the information you need when you're in a sales position. I always go back to when I had my event planning business and I was on a sponsorship journey, we'll say, with one of my clients, and I was supporting them. So I'd go out with them to actually ask for sponsorships because I was doing the event portion. And it was really to support them and the questions that might come up from the sponsor. But I was with one of the representatives from the nonprofit that we were asking for the sponsorship for the event. And I asked, so what do you think when it came to the different sponsorship levels? And she filled the space. And I was like cringing because I had worked so hard to lead up to that. And she filled the space. And so after that, we talked about it. I was like, so when we're asking for sponsorship and I'm asking basically for the sponsorship, we really want to leave that silence so that they can think and process and give us an answer, because we're there to get an answer and get the sponsorship. And she learned, she's like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah. But it's so common. We're humans. We feel that silence because it's uncomfortable to have that silence. The other one is what they say after a trial close, the importance of pausing. So when they talk about a trial close, and I'll have the link in the show notes if you want to utilize this with your team members for additional education, it's great to go over. They say a trial close can be, does this make sense? I'm not a big fan of that question. They also use the example of, are you following? Not a big fan of that question either. I think it can be degrading of, does this make sense? And obviously it's in tone, but what comes up for me when people ask that is like they're belittling me, like I don't get it. Like, yeah, it's very clear. I get what you're doing. So I like to instead focus on another question that is softer and more inviting, but still direct. And that's simply, what are your thoughts? Because I work so much in the vacation rental industry, I'm going to use the example of when salespeople are on calls and they have reviewed some homes together with them and they propose a home or maybe a situation, and they can say, what are your thoughts? But listen closely to the tone of the client's response. Always. If they're hesitant or unsure, stop and go back. And you can do this by saying, I hear some hesitancy in your voice. Can you share with me what that's about? And they might say, well, as I'm thinking about this home and that you recommended it, I think I do really want a pool there as well. I know we're at the beach, but there's something about having a pool that I like. And then you're not going down a direction that they really weren't interested in, because I think that's so common is we get it set in our head a certain way. Well, they told us and we go that direction, but then as you're talking, other things come up for them and they realize, oh no, I really do want this as well. I know I have done that as a consumer many a times. Another time is after an objection. So maybe you give them the home of choice, did a great job building up that value, and then you state the price. And they say, oh, whoa, that was way more than I expected. It's okay to give a moment, because then they will fill that air usually. And they might say, well, because I was thinking more about this range, and that gives you information. They can give you all types of objections, but if you pause, that gives you time to process. It also gives you time, if you're on the phone, to look up other options that might be more in their price range, why they're saying that. And then you can say, okay, so what were you thinking as far as price? And then you can say what you have available. And sometimes it's just not realistic. And you can go back, and after you've given that pause, you can say, oh, okay, I can understand where you're coming from. The challenge is being that you want to be right on the beach. That is actually a great price for being on the beach. And that gives them perspective. And so then they might step back and go, all right, I'm okay with the peekaboo view. I don't need to be right on the beach. And you go, okay, great. Then we have other options. Let's look at those together. But anytime you are in a situation where you're working with people that may be upset, I always say we want to empathize before we educate. And if we're already trying to work on a pause, often it's because we're in this place of we want to fix things real quick and we just move fast. And our world is fast moving, as we know, but it's okay to slow down. And so the key of saying, yes, I want to hear everything that you're saying. This can come up when I use that strategically in a situation where they catch you on your pause and they're like, are you still there? And I'll say, yes, I want to hear everything you're saying. I'm just taking notes. And then I'll go into this place of repeating. So if I understand you correctly, you feel like the price is a little much and it's on the beach, so you want to look at some peekaboo views. Let's go ahead and let me give you some options there. What price range are you hoping to stay within? Notice I say price range. I do not say budget. So then after you handle that objection, you pause. Maybe they have come up with a different objection of, say, oh, I really want the beach, but I just can't pay that price. Okay, well, based on what I'm seeing, that is our best price for any beachfront for your dates. And I'm all about giving options. So we can look at other dates that might have something else, or do you think that you might be able to make that work? Right? The other thing is just saying, what would you like to see happen at this point? Pause, give them a moment. Let them respond. Listen to their tone, evaluate it, and then respond accordingly. The other part is after you make a key point. When you are listening to public speakers, they will often pause after making a key point. In sales, this can be like when you are sharing a key feature or aspect of the product or service. It allows that feature, fact, or offer to sink in, creates a sense of significance. It's kind of like verbal underlining. The pause will often compel your prospect to comment, ask a question, or reveal buying signals. I like to say, it sounds like, based on your desire, this home is the best fit for your company. Or you can say, it sounds like, based on your desires, this home is the best fit for your upcoming stay. Another example is after you ask for the sale, right? I use the example of the sponsorship with even the trial sale, but really pausing. And what I can hear sometimes on calls is people will say, go right into their cancellation policy if that is their sales tool. Like, that's how they get the people. Well, you have 24 hours to cancel. No, Don't go straight to that. Wait. If they hesitate, then bring that in. This is the most powerful place in the entire sales process to pause before you speak, is after you ask for the sale. That silence gives the person time to think and respond, helps you avoid talking past the close and introducing objections. I've heard that too. Well, I know you said this, but are you sure you don't want to go ahead? No. After you ask for the sale, zip it. So, I hope that you enjoyed our time together talking about sales, which I love so much, and bringing in this idea of pausing and the importance of it. Think about how you're going to bring it in your conversations today, maybe even when somebody is sharing with you something they're upset about. Just listening, pausing, empathizing, and then going into maybe some suggestions. Sometimes when people are just talking to me and sharing, sometimes I will even, I'll empathize and then I'll be like, do you want my thoughts? Because sometimes I don't. They'll be like, no, I just needed to vent. I'm like, okay. So I leave with you this quote by Mark Twain. The right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.